Hello everyone and welcome back to the Silicon Nubian YouTube channel where we're all about things tech. Today we're having a look at Shark Linux version 4.13.0-17. This video took a little longer to put together than usual, not because of anything negative, but due to all the things that Shark Linux does bring to the table, which I believe after watching this you'll realize it's something that you really should take a look at. Shark Linux is an Ubuntu-based distribution featuring the Mate desktop, but it's much more than just that. Shark Linux features the HWE kernel by default, or the Ubuntu Hardware Enablement kernel. What is that? Well, I'm going to read directly from a blurb. It says, brand new hardware devices are released to the public always more frequently, and we want such hardware to always be working on Ubuntu, even if it has been released after the Ubuntu release. The Ubuntu release cycle is approximately 6 months, maybe more, maybe less. And that's a very long time in the computer world. And the whole idea of the HWE kernel is that it would catch up to the newest hardware technologies in between these releases. So what they've actually done is include a kernel which is on a regular, I would say, rolling release cycle. So in between full Ubuntu releases, there's this HWE kernel which is updated very frequently and includes, in it support for new devices and other additional features. So this is a rolling release kernel. The issues that may arise may be that the kernel may introduce some bugs and issues and is definitely not suitable for enterprise use. But for the home user, it can be a boon, in particular for someone who keeps buying new devices, new things as they come out, and attach them or use them with your PC. So that's the basis of it. I'm going to log in right now, and as we move along looking at the desktop, we'll also discuss some of the additional, and there's a lot, features and quirky inclusions in Shark Linux. So let's log in. Once again, Shark Linux does use the Mate desktop, but it also includes the Whisker menu. So it's like a hybrid. It's very nice, works very well. As you can see, the backgrounds are changing. By default, Shark Linux has, there we are, variety included, an automatic wallpaper changer, downloader, and manager. I found that with my short but very interesting time with Shark Linux that the backgrounds are always different for the most part. It can easily be shut off. You can go into preferences and you can start here where it says start variety. When computer starts, you can always stop that. Change wallpaper every 5 minutes. You can increase that and whatnot. So there you go. So this is the basic desktop. It's very Spartan, as Spartan as it can be. We have the clock down in the corner. We have the date, and that's about it. And we have this blank desktop. If we want to move ahead, we can move ahead to the different wallpapers that exist, and we can keep moving that along. So let's go to preferences. I'm going to increase this, okay, so that we won't be distracted. Now, we can also change the desktop background the traditional way. So let's look. Again, we have a Spartan desktop. Right-clicking on the desktop brings up a typical menu. Change desktop background, create a folder, create launcher, create document, open in terminal, and whatnot. So we can choose a background as well, the more traditional way. And it's done in real time, which is something that I appreciate. So that's a nice background. And they do include a number of very high quality backgrounds. And like everything else, you could always go out and get your own. So I think we'll stick with this one for the length of this review. So let's talk about the taskbar on the bottom. We have the network connections. The usual that we've seen in many other distributions and many other GUI interfaces. So we have that here. Right clicking will bring up the same thing. Left clicking and right clicking seem to bring up the same menu. We have the sound. Left clicking, we have the volume control. Right clicking, we have a few more options, including going to the sound preferences. Here again we have the background changer. And here we have the minimize all open windows and show the desktop. Then we have the calendar. Of course, we can right click on the calendar and we can choose properties and whatnot. So there we go. And this thing keeps going. Okay. There we go. And here we have the power. We have suspend, hibernate, restart, cancel, shutdown. I noticed there's no log off, but that's somewhere else. So let's continue with that. We can go right to the bar here, and there's really not much we can do. Quite simple. Mate is known to be a very lean desktop environment, and part of getting that is that you're not going to have as much, let's say, configuration options as KDE or some other, maybe even Cinnamon, but still very functional and just the way I like it. Those who've been watching my videos know that I am a fan of XFCE and also do like Cinnamon. So let's continue. Here we have the start menu. If you right click, we can always change. It's the whisker menu, XFCE4 whisker menu. So they've decided to use the whisker menu with the Mate desktop. Interesting. But that's the world of Linux. Flexibility is the name of the game. Let's hit on the start menu. Let's dig a little bit deeper. So we have favorites, we have featured software, system tools, virtual machines. Interesting, we're going to get to that soon. Shark Linux expansion, Shark Linux desktops, app grid, UGET, and backups. A little bit more about Shark Linux that we're looking at this stuff. For package management, the new package management command, they use a pkg command, which is actually a wrapper for the APT system or app system, in combination with the Area 2C download manager. And it's something that they've kludged together. I can't call it a kludge because it actually works, it's based on the popular apt-fast program, and increases the effectiveness, the speed of getting your updates or downloading and installing software. So, and Shark Linux does have its own repos, by the way. Although they use other repos, they do have included in the repo list, they have their own. And in testing, this setup that they have for package management was found to significantly reduce the download times. And so, interesting. For example, they have a command line that you can use to install Firefox, which would be pkg install Firefox. And pretty simple stuff. Or you can use the GUI to do that. They also have a lot of tools, and we're going to get into that, including a swap tool. Sudo policy can switch from default to traditional behavior. Lots of software changes. Transmission is not included. They've decided to, again, in terms of downloading anything, they've put it on the back of the Area 2C downloader used by the package manager. Nautilus is no longer included in favor of Kaja. And the Dropbox plugin has been replaced by the standalone version and works with Kaja. So there's a lot of different things that they've done here, and I can tell you that I'm fairly impressed with it. But we're going to continue in our look. So let's go. So here we have featured software. And what this really is, we're on installers. This is really a one-click or double-click installers for various software. For example, LibreOffice Suite, it will go there and it'll get it and it'll install it for us just by double clicking. So we have a few things here: Cockpit, LibreOffice, NetData, TeamViewer. Very good. You can install it simply by just getting that done. So let's continue. Here we have Sharky Linux expansion. We're going to talk about that. Wine, Sharky Linux games. Just quick installers. And here are virtual machines and tools, which we'll get into. Sharky Linux has a lot of support for various virtual machine formats and software out of the box. Let's go to System Tools. Opens up a nice thing here. We have Edge upgrades, development kernels, desktop themes, automatic maintenance. Sharky Linux includes automatic maintenance. This includes automatic updates and other functions to help maintain optimal system performance. Auto system is active. It's already active. So we turn it off or turn it on. So we can tell it to automatically maintain our system, which includes such things as downloading updates, cleaning out temp files, and whatnot. And it'll do that. By default, it's on. Google Drive is included. There's an app for that. Make swap. We can manage our swap partition. Nix package manager. So that's going to install that. With PowerShell, Windows PowerShell, we have Sharky Linux desktops, sudo policy, and user support and bug reports. Let me go to Sharky Linux desktops. We can alternate desktops environment. We can install them. We can even install the deepin desktop environment, and we have Sharky Linux Edge, which is mate 118 over the standard 116, and the hardware Edge kernel, and it tells you what's in there. Cloud compatibility, yes, and we have the deepin desktop. So we have different things we can do really quickly without having to jump into any kind of command line or look up what to do. We just double click and they're there. So let's go into virtual machines. This is where Sharky Linux, if it hasn't already piqued your interest, becomes very interesting. We have different video machine software and formats, Shark Cloud Managers, Virtual Shark, Ubuntu Cloud. And basically what they're doing, they start the installers for any of these, and we can install them in order to manage whatever virtual machines we want to put on. Very interesting. I'm someone who's very much a user of virtual machines. In fact, my reviews, most of the systems are running in a virtual machine. This is nice to have. Let's continue. Sharky Linux expansion. We're going to tell you what that is in a minute. In fact, I'm going to read a blurb about it. This is something else I have to... There's so much in this distribution that I have to talk about. I'm not going to have the time. They included two web browsers, both Chrome and Mozilla Firefox, but the Firefox is the nightly builds, while Chrome is the stable build. Firefox Nightly is up to 59.0A1. So when you can install Firefox stable if you want, but you're given the option here, and you can run the nightly web browser, or if you want to run something different, you can run the Chrome browser. And there we are, Google Chrome. And we have Google Chrome 62. So that's good. You have options. I did save something here in the Sharky documentation. I just want to, when we went to Sharky Linux expansion, I'll tell you what that is. Better that I go right here. I did bookmark it. And this talks about some of the software that's included, but let's look at expansion. See a lot of information. Their website is very, it's not overbearing. It's nicely done, and they do have some very interesting information there. And they show you a lot of things that are here. Expansion in a nutshell. I'm sorry, I'm reading and looking at the same time. Is Sharky Linux ships with a certain amount of software and set up to do a certain amount of things, and expansion allows you to add a lot to it automatically. So to tell you here, on the first login after install, initial setup program will be activated. Finally, cleanup will occur and whatnot. Welcome screen, 9 options. You can make swaps, Sharky's extra. There's a shortcut to installers for other goodies. Sudo policy, system settings, system backup, system maintenance. Sharky Linux expansion. Okay, so I'm going to read what it says. You can read it yourself in the video, but I'll do it quicker. This one was saved for the last on purpose. It's highly recommended that this be the first things you do. The install sets up the base system and gets you started, but at this point you really only have a minimal install with a Mate desktop and a handful of standard desktop programs. For some this is enough, but in order to make all of us Shark Linux features and real experience the OS as intended, you would inevitably need to install the expansion, especially just to do this immediately. Absolutely no upstream packages are enabled without the expansion, and many one-click installs depend on this installation. There you go. There you go. So there's a lot of things in Sharky Linux that are unusual if you've used other Linux distributions, but with respect to their ecosystem, it kind of makes sense. So here we have things also that describe certain software that's installed that you may not be familiar with. I'm not familiar with all of them. Cockpit is a remote manager for GNU Linux users. New administering storage, inspecting journals and whatnot. Ubuntu Cloud is there. Vagrant, provisioning of virtual machines in QEMU and KVM environment. Okay. Shark Cloud is a cloud environment provided by Shark Linux and a graphical Shark Cloud tools provided. Stack Technologies, LXDoc. FireJail is a SUID, S-U-I-D program. Very good. Linux Brew, NetData. There's a lot of stuff included. Interesting. As extras for you. So I did not actually run the expansion. So this is what you get prior to expansion. Let's go a little bit further. Internet, we have Dropbox, FileZilla, Google Chrome, OCS Store, Remote Viewer. Very simple. Thunderbird Mail. Okay. How about Shark Linux? Let's go into the Shark Linux selection here. We have featured software, expansion, cockpit, FireJail, all of those things. We saw that before. We have tools, additional software as well. If we click on that, it's going to go basically to I would like to call it an app store, but things that we can install. Packages are updated frequently. This menu is subject to regular changes. So this changes all the time. Kind of strange right there. Okay. Tools. Additional software. So it loads every time to see if there's any changes. The only thing about this is it doesn't give you much information on what the software is. And they seem to come in sets. Oh, you can do one at a time. Yeah, so there's YouTube download, Wikipad, Lollipop, HexChat, all this other stuff that you can install. Okay. If I was to tell the developers or ask the developers for anything, I would say at least have descriptions of the different software. It might be difficult as it changes all the time, but it would be nice. Automatic maintenance, we already saw that. Virtual environments, we already saw how many different ones there are. And that's all under the Sharky Linux menu setting here. Okay, when we go to settings, we have additional drivers, Adobe Flash, appearance, Bluetooth. Now this looks more like what we'd see in other Linux distributions. Keyboard, personal file sharing, pop-ups. Nothing, window preferences, nothing really jumps out in that menu that's unusual. Okay, so we have accessories, with backups, calculator, mate, the normal stuff, system tools, useful system tools as we saw already. So let's go down to education, okay, LibreOffice Math, graphics, mate, color selection, GNU image manipulation program, GIMP, of course. Very good. Office, LibreOffice is included. Good to know. And we have this one I'm not familiar with. Atrial Document Viewer. Okay. Let's continue. Multimedia, sound and VLC media player. I could see that you would want to add things here as this is pretty sparse. System, app grid. Okay. App grid is a application installer. Okay, so let's say we go to quick count and it'll give you a blurb about what that is and you can install from there. So that's pretty cool. And you get pretty good descriptions of everything, and there seems to be a fair amount of software that you can go into. You can go through categories, games, productivity. Here we are. You can go to system, appearance. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. That's very easy to get things done there. Featured software again. We have the package installer, Wake terminal, mate system software and updates. Run that. And here we are. Downloadable from the internet. Free and open source software main. And we can select all of that and other software. But we have the, and here we could see we have the Shark Linux repositories there that are already set. Updates, installed updates from, automatically check for updates daily, download and install automatically, as opposed to display immediately or download automatically. So, Sharky Linux does background updates. I'm not one who's absolutely, at least this is out of the box, I'm not one who's absolutely comfortable with that, but that's what they've set and it's easy to turn off. So, let's wind this down now. There's a lot to see here. A lot to see. We have the UGET, download manager. We have backups here, no recent backups. So we have that. You can set it to automatic, I would suppose. And we have the expansion, and we can click yes. And it would go in there. Now what we're doing is we're going to take a look at the Sharky Linux expansion and see what that actually gives us as well. And I'll talk about who is Sharky Linux for. There's a lot of different concepts and different things in here that I don't see in other distributions. Folks, this is Linux. Any distribution can be made to look like or function like, for the most part, not completely, any other distribution. But that being said, Sharky Linux brings a lot to the table and a lot to like. It's one that I think you have to watch, or it should be watched. Give it a try. There's a lot of tools in here, and particularly if you're into things like virtual machines, having a little bit more control over software and whatnot. Sharky Linux definitely has an edge here. I think that I just came upon this. I saw it at DistroWatch and I thought, hey, this looks like something that I'd love to talk about and put a video up on the channel. And as I dug into it, I realized I can't just download this, check it out for a day or two and put up a video on what I think. This is something that's going to require a little bit more time. And even though I've had a little bit more time, I still feel like I'm only scratching the surface of this distribution. Who is it for? Newbies? I don't think so. There are a few distributions that are out there for rank newbies, but I don't think Sharky Linux is one of them. Although everything is a GUI, it presents you with certain choices that newbies may not be familiar with, among other things. So I'm not sure if I would call it newbie friendly. It is in that it's point and click everywhere, but the power of it, the power of what it can do, definitely the power user would love this. Being Ubuntu based yet running the HWE kernel, having tons of options for things such as virtual machines and whatnot, that's wonderful. So now we've run the that, and now let's see what it's given us. We have another icon down here now. Okay, that was from before. I apologize, I gotta quit. Didn't really quit, it just shrank to the bottom. So let's see what it's done. Has it done anything that we could see right away? Okay. Yes, things have been added. Audacious has been added. Clementine, OpenShot video editor has been added. Very nice. System tools. Oh, here we're talking about the file manager's Kaja. So it's Kaja 1.16.6. No problem with that whatsoever. Very capable file manager. Ooh, there's a lot to talk about in this one. Accessories. There's stuff that's been installed extra. And that sounds pretty good. And then we have, excuse the phone in the background. So we keep looking. We have internet. We still have the nightly Firefox. Now MegaSync, Google Chrome, Dropbox. Okay, everything looks good. Let's look at some other things here. Please excuse the phone in the background. There it goes. Graphics. Now we have Inkscape. I think that was there before. Web. Okay. Web catalog. Not familiar. So there's a lot of things here to poke and prod and take a look at. I'm kind of impressed. They've brought something to the table. If you've looked at a lot of Linux distributions like I have over a long time, things start to get very generic after a while. It has to be more than just a look, and even more sometimes than the feel. It has to be the presentation and the content. Sharky Linux has enough content to make people who like digging down and finding new things very happy. And at the same time, it's built on top of a solid Ubuntu base, which is shored up by the HWE kernel. So I'm impressed. And that's my review of Sharky Linux, or my quick overview. I couldn't really call it a review. There's so much to see in this. Definitely it's one to watch. I just created a folder. Definitely it's one to watch. Performance in a virtual machine was excellent. No issues whatsoever with that. We didn't go through a lot of the settings because there's so much stuff we can do here. Look and feel, fonts, interface, show icons and menus. There's other things that we didn't get to do because I want to keep this video shorter than 6 to 7 hours. We can add to the desktop icons very easily. We can configure it out of the box. This is how it looks. Performance is quite snappy in a virtual machine. Very good. And while some might say it's not representative of real hardware, I do notice a difference in performance under the virtual environment. And I'm running quite a beefy system, so I do notice a difference. It's quite snappy. Give Sharky Linux a try, folks. Definitely take a look at it. Shark Linux, I should say. I'm calling it Sharky. Give it a try. It's definitely worthy of a look, and I would say put it in the category of one to watch. That's my quick overview and look at Shark Linux. I feel like I've only scratched the surface. It's a very deep distribution, if I can call it that, and I put it on my list of ones to watch. So take care. Please check us out. If you're into building and modifying PCs and PC hardware in general, check us out at the PC Construction Zone. If you are into general computers, we have technology and computer enthusiasts, and our more commercial offering at Silicon Nubian. The links will be below. Please comment, subscribe, spread the word. Thanks a lot. See you next time.